Good afternoon again, everybody. Thanks for jumping in on this GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro tutorial webinar. A lot of things have changed, so we're going to run through some of that technology for you this afternoon to help get you started. My name is Scott Lee. I run the GeoPDF side of a business for TerraGo, primarily in the defense and the intelligence industry sectors, but we have, as many of you know, thousands of customers around the world and domestically in the United States. So for the big news today, thank you very much. The GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro is now available. This has taken a number of man-years to get up and running. We had a very successful beta program, received some good feedback on that program, and the products. We're actually circling the wagons now to get out a hot fix for some things that we've noticed through the beta program and through some of our initial evaluation users. We've had a lot of interest in this. We have a couple of hundred people that registered for this webcast actually. And so, and a number of trial downloads for the product. And I'll talk about that trial download process at the conclusion of the demonstration. Thanks again, but the product is available on the website, and like I said, I'll get into more details on that. So the first thing is, what does this actually mean for ArcGIS Pro users? So now Esri has not discontinued support for the standard ArcMap and ArcCatalog product. But as you'll see on the screen, the anticipated schedule, this is pulled from the Esri website, they plan on retiring that product in 2026. Now, there will be online support resources, but they are encouraging all of their partners and customers to go ahead and move to ArcGIS Pro. It's a really powerful tool. I've been in there myself and messed around with the software, and it's really nice new interface and a lot of new capabilities, and I encourage you all to go ahead and make that move. TerraGo specifically is putting a tremendous investment inside of this product as it matures, and we do anticipate that the majority, if not all, of those customers will be moving to ArcGIS Pro. A question that you may have is this a new product? Absolutely it is. Like I said, there have been a number of man-years that have been invested in the development of the technology. And just like with the GeoPDF technology, when you have that, our GeoPDF toolbar installed on any user's workstation, you really have a collaborative environment, a geospatial collaboration environment for any skill set of user. They don't have to be GIS experts. They can just use the product, use that GeoPDF out of ArcGIS Pro with the TerraGo toolbar, and have all of that true collaboration capability again. So what is new inside of the GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro? If you have not already downloaded and installed ArcGIS Pro, you'll notice that the environment is much different. They've adopted a ribbon type interface. Many software companies have done that just for ease of use and navigation. TerraGo has implemented that capability as well. So when you download and install the GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro, you will have a TerraGo tab available to you on the right-hand side. You'll see there. Many of the features and functions of the tool set are going to be right up front for you for compressing vector graphics and manipulating your imagery, adding pages, identifying the attribute information you'd like to deliver with your GeoPDF product. And it's all in a nice, clean environment. We're continuing to do enhancements for that as well to make more of the tools up front and you'll easily be able to manipulate the information and configure your export. For the export configuration, we've fully embraced and adopted GeoPackage, as many of you know. That has been implemented with ArcGIS Pro. So you actually have a self-contained, you're not just delivering a representation of the data out of ArcGIS Pro, you're actually receiving the data in an attached SQLite database. And John's going to show you that during the demonstration. We've also transitioned all of our help documentation to online. So whenever you select the help icon up there on the top left of the ribbon, it'll launch you to our customer portal center, and you can get access to all of the information about turning on and enabling the add-in. That's one of the common questions that we have actually received is, how do I enable that add-in? And John will go through that in the demonstration for you as well. So we've tried to make everything as intuitive and as user-friendly as possible when it comes to exporting your GeoPDF products. Again, there continuing to be enhancements and fixes. We're going to be doing the best that we can to stay up to date with the latest versions of the ArcGIS Pro environment. Currently, we support ArcGIS Pro version 2.4, and there are going to be, as business partners and technology partners with Esri, we have a much closer relationship with them to be able to get their beta versions and implement that into our engineering paths to make sure that we continue to support all of the latest Esri releases. Export actually takes place from the layout view in ArcGIS Pro. There are several options that are available there for optimizing your imagery or your vector data. There are advanced layering capabilities in the tool set as well. And again, we have fully embraced the OGC specification for GeoPackage. So that data, again, it's not just a representation of the data, it is the data, and it's carried across with the PDF as an attachment. And it's a .gpkg attachment. With that, what I'd like to do is go ahead and turn it over to John and have him go ahead and kick off the demonstration.
Okay, so hi, my name is John Mueller, and we're going to be kind of going through a quick demonstration of the GeoPDF publisher for ArcGIS Pro extension. So I've opened up Arc Pro here, and I've got a document that I can look at real quick. It's just a demonstration of inside the Washington, D.C. area. As Scott had referenced, the Terrago toolbar is actually going to be a ribbon, and it's going to be across the top here, and it's going to be available across this little tab. When you first install our software and you open it up, you might find that it's grayed out. And in that instance, you still need to enable it. So if you go back over to the Projects tab and you scroll down to a place called Licensing, it's going to talk a little bit about obviously what license you're using for Arc Pro, some extensions that may or may not be available to you. And then where it says external extensions, you've got the GeoPDF publisher, and you just want to enable that guy. With that enabled, you can go back now to the map project. And if I activate the Terrago ribbon, you're going to see these options now are enabled. So, and with that, what I'll do is I'll just go across left to right, and we'll talk a little bit about each one. So the about is just that. It gives you a little bit more information relative to the information, the extension of your software, along with some additional contact information. So anytime you do run into some issues with our software, make sure you have the version number handy along with this date. This will help our support folks understand, what you're using and possibly resolve any issues you may be having a little bit faster. Along with this, then, is also the website and some additional phone contact information. Let's see, the next one over is our help document, and this is a new help portal that we've stood up specifically for publisher, and this section is actually for a publisher for ArcGIS Pro. But it'll go in here and it'll answer some questions that you may have relative to just about the extension itself, talk about system requirements, how to activate it, enable it like we just walked through, and then kind of walks through some of the other options as far as configuring and exporting. There's a little different, there's a couple of other things in here as far as how to review log files, export GeoPDFs, and then getting started. So all that information is going to be available to you through this little help icon here. Then you've got this dialog called Preferences. Preferences, it's going to be quite similar to what you typically would see in the ribbon itself. But with this preference dialog, what it does is it is what would be the defaults for a brand new map project. So on the desktop side of things, I know a lot of you are familiar with the map document itself, the MXD. Esri has shifted from that into a thing called a project. So inside of a project, you're going to have your map frames, your layouts, and it's all going to be saved as a map project. So within that map project, on a new one, you can utilize these defaults for anything that gets newly created. When you're going through and now you've got some additional options here. So for imagery, for vectors, some additional PDF options, layers and attributes. The values that I set across this ribbon are actually going to save with the project itself. So if I've got imagery attached, I can set the DPI, this compress vector graphics and embed all document fonts. That enhances, well, first off, it helps to reduce the size of the document, the PDF itself. It compresses it a bit more as far as the compressed vector graphics. The embed all document fonts enables the user that may not have Esri installed on their PC to maintain the symbology that you've built. So so they don't necessarily have to have the fonts installed on the machine. As long as you embed it with the PDFs, they can continue to use the symbology that you've set. The next one over is the PDF options, and in here we've added some additional functionality where you can actually append or prepend a non-spatial PDF document. And for example, this might be something that you want to have a splash page on when you open up the GeoPDF. You might want to share some information about the intended use of the map itself. As far as the append, you might want to include either metadata or some additional information, let's say about the legend, maybe a little bit more detailed information beyond just maybe a small legend that you might have in the marginalia of your map page. So here's where you would do that, and you just click on this little button with the 3 dots. It'll open up a folder, a browser. You browse to the location, you select the document you would like to have appended, and then you hit OK. And then the next option on this list would be make compatible with. There's not a, I mean, I'm sure there's a few people out there that still have older versions of toolbars, but for the majority of us, I would just suggest leaving the toolbar 5+ OGC preferred value in there. That's gonna cover, like I said, 99% of all of our users. The next one over here on the right is layers. So we can manipulate how the layers are going to be presented to the intended user. So in here, I've got the ability to basically just populate the layers inside the GeoPDF to mimic what you would see in ArcGIS or Arc Pro, I should say. So in here, though, I'm going to make this a little simpler for my intended user. So I'm going to get rid of some things that I don't want them to interact with the layers. So the marginalia or surrounds, they don't need to turn these things on and off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that group. And this grid overlay that I've got on the map frame, again, there's really no reason to have them interact with it as far as layers go. So I've got my list here: airports, manholes, zoning, buildings, and roads. And I'm going to make this a little bit simpler as well. I'm going to ungroup, unwrap the group contents here so that I don't have a hierarchy, like a parent-child structure. And then I can do the same thing for the map frame. So I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to highlight it, I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to unwrap the menu contents. And so really I've only got those items in there that I want the user to really interact with. And I can also, besides these things being all on by default, I also may want to turn something off that may have a long drawing time. So let's say the zoning layer, I can actually turn that off as far as initially. So the layer's still available. I can turn it on and off how I see fit, but it may not be necessary for my user to see this right off the bat. So I made my changes to my layers that I want to present to my user. I've also got the ability to, up here in the left corner, to layer the feature and labels independently. So I like to combine them into a single layer. So I'm going to leave that off, but there are some instances where that might be useful to some. So that's an option for you. Once you're finished here, you can hit OK. And the last set of options that you've got are attributes before we do the export. So if I activate this attribute dialog, you're going to see that I've got all my layers here that are going to be available within the GeoPDF. My output options are either none or GeoPackage, and Scott talked a little bit about the GeoPackage, what that means, and how it's actually attached to the GeoPDF itself. And in here, I can basically just turn these things on and off. So if I want to include everything in here, I can turn everything on. Or if I don't want to share my roads and zoning with the intended users as far as the GeoPackage data, I can turn those items off. There's still a layer representation of those features. It's just not included in the GeoPackage. The one other thing that I would kind of touch on with the GeoPackage is in order to increase or decrease the size of the PDF itself, I would recommend going into the attribute tables of the layers that you're going to be exporting to GeoPackage, and possibly turning off attributes that aren't needed. So I've got this, let's say this particular attribute, some kind of a code. I can do a right mouse click and I can actually say hide field. And that field will not be included in the export to GeoPackage. And so it's just a nice little trick to kind of minimize the impact of increased file size. Let's say, and you don't have to do it one by one. You can actually select several columns and hit hide. So maybe a layer might have maybe let's say 100 different attributes. Really, you only pull out maybe 20 of those. I would turn off those attributes that are not applicable to your intended use. So that's a little bit on that, and then I can hit export here. So the export is going to bring up a little dialog. It's going to ask me where I'd like to save the file, and I can go ahead and name it. I select the file type as a Terrago GeoPDF, and I hit save. So it does the export, and for time here, I'm going to go ahead and just open something up that I've pre-baked, and so here's what would be exported out of ArcGIS Pro, and I got this opened in Adobe Reader. Inside of here, I've got a Terrago toolbar, and I can do a few things just like I would normally be able to do. I can, if I activate the toolbar itself, I can actually navigate across the map, and I see my X and Y locations down below.